All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Yankees Subway Series, as well as the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we get into all of that, this is a jam-packed episode, so I'm warning you, if you're not ready for everything that we're going to talk about, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of games during the regular season. Make sure to, if you are watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns. And if you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. You're just going to be starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many comments as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for Frank, my co-host right here on the screen. His instant post-game reactions after every regular season game, which are titled The Mets Frankly Post-Game. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all of your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 136 of our show. And of course, we are coming off of a series in the Bronx with that other team who shares a city with us, and we ended up getting bested. Two out of three. And, I think right now the message to this is more of the Mets team in general, with me at least. I think the Yankees-Mets trash talk for me, I do very little of it. I participate in very little of it. And if there are Yankee fans who want to come in here, talk their trash, you've earned it. You won the series. Have fun. But I think that in reality here, and I don't say this in a denial way, I say this as a specific phrase way, and I think, Frank, you can agree, the Yankees did not beat the Mets. The Mets completely beat themselves this entire series long, and we continue to see the same issues on display, and they folded over against a team that is an actual contender, which we have said would happen. And either way, if you're 11 games over 500, 11 games under 500, at 500 or undefeated, this type of baseball, it's unacceptable, and eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, it was very frustrating because these are things that we had been pointing out. Even when they did win, they would say, you know what, they've won games. A lot of those games they won by a small amount of runs. And we say there's still some things that are concerning here that you might want to get cleaned up. There's some things you could do better in the field. There's some things you could do a little differently with pitching. And then certainly when it comes to hitting and your approach with men on base. And then you saw all those things come back to bite them and get beat up bad. And one of the things that we had been very complimentary of, and everyone else is saying, oh, well, you know what? Even the games that the Mets lose, at least it's still close. Like, at least you're not getting blown out. There's not been like this game where they're not even close. Well, that happened twice in this series, especially last night. And you just saw like anything that you were kind of worried about with this Mets team that could go wrong, it went wrong. If third base defense was a concern, you saw that. If first base defense was a concern, you saw that too. If some relievers losing command of the zone was something that you were worried about, you saw a ton of that. And then men on base, what's that? I mean, we don't do that. So you just saw all those things that we had constantly been saying, oh, well, they got to clean this up. We got to do something about this. We saw that happen. And, there's plenty of people while this is happening saying, oh, well, you know what? One of the best records in the National League, first place. Those things are true. But here are some other things for you. The Mets are a half game up on the Phillies now. So you could only give me the first place excuse for so much longer, and we'll see where that ends up. But also, people are saying, don't worry about the Mets right now because the record is good. The record is one of the best in the league. Well, there's 115 games to go. So I can't hang my hat on the record when there's 115 games to go. And what happened in 2022 when the Mets won over 100 games, it didn't matter. So the record is just a lame excuse. It really is. And you have to be concerned with some of the things you're seeing because, like you said, the Mets beat themselves. And that's been a recurring theme that has happened in a lot of these games. And plenty of them they could have won. And those things may end up mattering when you're ahead of the wild card teams like the Cardinals, who have been red hot lately. You're only up on them by a couple games. Diamondbacks by 3 games. You know how good they are. And then the Braves by 4. And you know the Braves are going to turn it on. And we haven't even had a head-to-head matchup against them yet. So I just don't love this, oh, well, why are you guys so negative? Why are you guys so upset? The record, it's May. I don't want to hear it because we've seen them be in first place for 100 days. And it doesn't matter. So I really like these are the same things that we're seeing over and over. And when you play, like I said before, you play the Marlins, you play the Nationals, maybe the Pirates, you get away with some of this stuff. But when you play the Yankees and then this weekend you're going to have the Dodgers, like you're not going to get away with that. So these things got to get cleaned up eventually because the other thing that really drives me nuts is I don't care if the Mets are first place or not. I want the Mets to win the championship. They were in the National League Championship Series. And my philosophy at this point in time, where many other Met fans have not seen a championship in their lifetime, even people who were alive, a lot of them were too young to even remember what was really going on. To me, if you don't win the championship, if you're not in first, you're in last because there's nothing great about, making the NLCS or losing it, even losing in the World Series. It doesn't matter. You got to actually win the thing because there's just nothing for second place. There's no silver medal. There's none of that. So it's just like these are the kind of things that you're seeing with the defense, with the pitching, especially the men on base, the hitting. You cannot win a World Series like that. Those things have got to get cleaned up. You cannot be bottom 5 in the league with men on base. It is unacceptable. And to your point, the Mets have spent, when it's all said and done, over $1 billion on this current iteration of the team. They have very high expectations, especially based off what happened last season. So when you say underwhelming, it's understandable. You're not saying they're a bad team, but they're underwhelming with the expectation you have for them.
I'm still getting shit as we speak on Twitter.
Of course you are, because I mean that's how it is. But when
everyone's so quick to defend,
when you're in the NLCS and then proceed to spend over $800 million, you're trying to go to the next level. You're trying to get to the World Series, and with these guys doing what we saw, especially this weekend, you're not going to be able to do that.
No. Again, win-loss record is what it is at face value. The Mets, that means that they scored more runs than the other team more than often. But how are they doing it? What is the quality of the wins? What is the quality of the losses? Those things add up in a 162-game season. I don't understand how we can constantly see with history, whether you think it's repeating itself or not, where the Mets get off to a great start and then all of a sudden we're shocked when they completely faceplant. There's reasons as to why that happens. And when you point them out, it prevents it from continuing. We're not saying this to be negative, to get clicks, to do this, to do that. We're saying this because we know that this team is capable of more. That's why. We would get more
clicks if we lied and told you guys that everything is great and this is a great team.
Yeah.
So we definitely are not doing it for clicks.
No, I'm definitely not doing it for clicks, and that's basically how everybody will get that response. And I'll get into the tweet I made last night because apparently there continues to be some misconception that I'm just here to hate on this team. I guess maybe it's just because I constantly come off as condescending for some reasons I don't understand. Actually, no, I do understand. But again, when it comes to this team in general, the way that they are playing baseball, it's not winning baseball. Don't give a shit if it is a win-loss record against better teams or win-loss record here or win-loss record. I don't care. I don't care. If this is your argument for why everything is going to be okay, you're completely out of touch with this situation. I don't give a shit. Don't care. I don't care if they're in first place. I don't even care if they're undefeated. The season's not done yet. And that's the same argument that I get right back from somebody. They'll tell me, well, it's only April, but then all of a sudden the April record matters in this argument too. You can't have it both ways. I just feel like we're constantly here with low standards. There needs to be high expectation. Aim higher, please. Aim higher. I'm begging people to aim higher. It's not being entitled. It's having expectation. This is what the Mets put into this team. Expectation. Obviously inflated by one player in this lineup, but this is over $1 billion spent on an offense. And you're telling me that constantly coming across with 2 to 3 runs pretty much every single game for a majority of games is not underwhelming? Quality of wins, quality of losses. This is a thing. And they will catch up to you when you're playing, when you meet your match, such as the Dodgers, such as the Braves, who, I know, they start off 0-7. I thought they were done. Nope, they're above 500 now. If you want to talk about win-loss record, if that matters. Oh, wait, it doesn't matter because that doesn't benefit the Mets. Sorry for calling out hypocrites. My bad. Let me reschedule back to the regularly scheduled program. Hold on. Anyways, when it comes to how they are playing baseball, it's not winning baseball. There are ways where you can win and have these flaws, and winning can heal over that. But again, if this is a 50-game season, we'd be in pretty good shape. But it's 162 games. And these types of problems are going to be exposed whether you like it or not. And then everyone's going to wonder why. No, there's reasons why, as to why. And we will get into one of those reasons as to why this team is failing and underachieving, whether they're in first place or not. I'm not saying this to be negative. We're not saying this to be, insufferable human beings. This is things that we are seeing that we want them to prevent from happening. Because if they continue, it's not going to be 11 games over 500 and in first place. This is about sustainable outlook. We don't want them to be perfect. We want them to be efficient. They haven't been efficient. They're not playing winning baseball. And to be honest, they really have not played winning baseball since opening day. Hate to burst the bubble. It's going to catch up. It will catch up unless something improves, which in the big department that we will eventually talk about, no improvement whatsoever. In fact, it's gotten worse if you compare April to May. We all know what I'm talking about, right? We all exactly know what I'm talking about. It's in the top left. We'll talk about it. We're going to go deep into it. And you guys are going to see how bad and how alarming this is. Either way, I do want to...
And that's the other thing that bothers me too, is that people have gotten a little too comfortable with these new playoff rules and like these 5 million wild cards, because my 2006 Mets, when they didn't make it all the way and they had those collapses and they could never get back to the postseason, like that was it. Like if you were not great, like you weren't going to make it. And people have just gotten too like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs anyway. And like they've just had too many teams recently.
And I'm sure they will.
Yeah, and there's just been too many teams recently that get far via the wild card that a lot of people just think that, oh, no matter what, you'll still make the playoffs and anything can happen there, which it can. But it's just like, I just feel like people have gotten too comfortable with that, because that's not how baseball originally was. You had teams that were good that would not make it because of certain circumstances, not having all these extra spots. And a lot of people who say, oh, the Mets were so good last year, like, they just barely beat the Brewers in that series.
Yeah.
Like they
got hot at the right time.
They got hot at the right time. They just got out of it. And now it's like, I don't know. I just don't give them the benefit of the doubt, because it was not pretty the way they got there. I mean, it really wasn't. No. So, I mean, again, it's tough because I don't see the Mets, we'll get to it later, but I don't see them making the change they need to make. And there's another change they could make on the field, which they clearly will not make. And it continues to haunt them every single time it happens. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know like what needs to happen. I mean, how many more games do you have to see where the offense just does not look good, where you're like, okay, we need to actually do something here? because it's like we said, because I feel like what happens is you have a series like this where they're, 2 to 3 runs every game. Let's say in this Red Sox series, they have like 1 7 to 8 run game, which could very well happen. Then they're like, oh wait, okay, our offense is gonna be fine. Like we scored 7 8 runs, we're good.
Yep.
But then they go back to like a whole week of like 2 to 4, and then you're like, what happened again? So I feel like they just keep having these random 7s and 8s that make the Mets brass think that everything is all right. But for the majority of the time, it is not, like you said, not efficient. Just really is not.
No. Oh yeah, and we'll get into how inefficient it is, because this is going to be crazy how people are going to see how alarming this is. But to tease that until later, let's actually get into what happened in these 3 games. And we all know when I do this recap, I got to take a sip.
There's a lot to get
deep
into.
sip of water.
It was an eventful
lots to get into. Yeah, definitely. In the Bronx, off to with the Yankees. First Subway Series with Juan Soto back in the Bronx. The big headline. Ooh, it's a big headline.
Where he spent his whole career.
Where he spent his entire career. It was
won a lot of
sick.
He was their
legendary.
Yeah.
So legendary. Oh my God. Anyways.
Like even
onto this full-on rundown.
Didn't act like this when Albert Pujols left. Here's a guy who actually was a franchise player who did win championships.
Yeah.
Even Cardinal fans didn't act like this when he went to the Angels. Like,
I don't even care what the Yankee fans. I just hate the way that how
media
it was
field day with it.
the way that this was put in as a story, just to see Juan Soto be walked like 10 times. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, this is great. This is setting up such a fantastic story. Like,
listen, they need something to talk about.
It was just underwhelming. Underwhelming. Anyways, on to this rundown here. Of course, Tyler Megill would start the series opener, and he would turn in the worst outing of any Mets starting pitcher. More on him later. 2 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts on 72 pitches. Max Kranick would come on to finish the third on 1 pitch. The Mets would find themselves down 4-0 in the fourth after a leadoff walk to Juan Soto and a 1-out single to Mark Vientos. Brandon Nimmo would get the Mets on the board with a RBI double, but the Yankees would respond instantly. Max Kranick would come back out for the fourth and allow 3 consecutive hits with 1 out to Judge, Bellinger, and Goldschmidt. Jason Dominguez would drive in another run on a RBI force out to make it a 6-1 Yankees game. Max Kranick would toss a bounce back 1-2-3 inning in the 5th. Jose Budo would get the 6th and 7th and post a 0 in each inning on 33 pitches. Danel Nunez would touch the scoreless 8th. Working around some base runners, the Mets would rally a bit in the 9th after a 1-out walk to Francisco Alvarez and a 2-out walk to pinch hitter Jeff McNeil. Francisco Lindor would slap a double down the left field line to make it 6-2, but Juan Soto would fly out, stranding 2, and ending the game going 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. What else is new? To drop game 1 of the Subway Series 6-2. Griffin Canning would make the start in game 2. He'd make his 9th start of the year. He'd work around base runners all game. With only 2 runs, he'd be allowed on a pair of solo home runs in the 3rd and the 6th. Canning would exit with 1 out in the 6th. Huascar Brazaban would finish the inning on 2 ground ball outs to close the book on Canning. 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts on 92 pitches. Down 1-0 in the 4th after a leadoff walk to Francisco Lindor and a single by Juan Soto. Pete Alonso would tie the game on an RBI single. Mark Vientos would give the Mets a 2-1 lead with a sacrifice fly. The Mets would threaten in the 7th with Brett Beatty at first and 1 out. Tyrone Taylor would launch a ball to the left center field gap, but Beatty would be gunned down at home on a great relay from Yankee shortstop Anthony Volpe to keep the Mets off the board. Huascar Brazaban would toss a 1-2-3 7th with a strikeout. Reed Garrett would come in for the 8th and give us a heart attack, walking 3 batters in total in that inning, but he would escape the jam to keep the game tied heading into the 9th, where Luis Torrens would draw a 1-out walk and get pinch ran for by Luis Angel Acuna. Brett Beatty would single on a ground ball to DJ LeMahieu, where he would have no play. And Tyrone Taylor would get hit by a pitch to load the bases for Lindor, who would give the Mets the lead on a sacrifice fly. In the bottom of the ninth, Edwin Diaz would come on for the save, and he'd retire the side on 17 pitches, striking out Austin Wells and the best hitter in all of baseball, Aaron Judge, to secure a victory in Game 2 for the Mets, 3-2. Game 3, David Peterson would start the series finale, and he'd run into some trouble in the first, allowing 2 runs to come across, 1 unearned after a leadoff fielding error by Mark Vientos. Peterson would work in out in trouble and finish with a solid line. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts on 101 pitches. The Mets would respond in the second inning after a leadoff single by Mark Vientos and a walk to Brandon Nimmo. Jeff McNeil would get the Mets on the board with a RBI single. The Mets would tie the game in the 5th after a leadoff walk to Jeff McNeil. Luis Angel Acuna would sacrifice him over to second. Francisco Lindor would push him over to third on a ground ball to the right side. And Jeff McNeil would come home to score on a wild pitch by Max Fried. Huskar Brazaban would come into the 7th and load the bases after getting the first 2 outs with back-to-back walks to Trent Grisham, followed by a single from Cody Bellinger. But Brazaban would strike out Anthony Volpe to keep the game tied, coming back from 3-0 in the count. But Ryan Stanek would struggle in the 8th after a leadoff walk to Jason Dominguez. Austin Wells would pull a 1-out double to make it 2nd and 3rd. The Yankees would take a 3-2 lead after Pete Alonso would completely airmail a throw home on a ground ball hit right to him, and the floodgates would open from there. Paul Goldschmidt would give the Yankees a 4-2 lead with a RBI single. Genesis Cabrera would come in for Stanek, and after walking a batter of his own, then he would surrender the big blow, a grand slam to Cody Bellinger, to extend the Yankees' lead to 8-2 and put the game out of reach, as the Mets would surrender 6 unearned runs, with Mets pitchers walking 8 batters to drop Game 3 in the Bronx 8-2. The Mets are now 29-18 on the season, currently holding first place as we speak over the Phillies by just a half a game. Now, this was basically a full display of a lot of the issues we've had this year that we continue to point out. Game 3 became a disaster real quick. After it was a tight game for many of these innings. It's just constant red flags that we continue to see, whether they are in first place or not. Can we even say that after tonight? Who knows? Phillies play the Rockies. So we all know the Rockies stink. So the Mets are going to have to win tonight to maintain first place, most likely. So, Frank, I'll give you whatever takeaways, putting together this stressful series where the Mets didn't seem to show up, like pretty much at all. I mean, it seemed like it was really half-assed. And if you can't get pumped up for a Subway series, especially with it being our World Series, as it's been coined before, I don't know. Some players showed up, but as a collective unit, Mets beat themselves, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, not many. I think there's so many different areas you can go here, but I'll start with the one big one that really annoyed me is that, like, when you see Bellinger hit that grand slam and you see it like just go right over that short right field wall, and you see DJ LeMahieu hit the opposite field home run, and you're like, oh my gosh, Yankee Stadium, this is so frustrating. Like, that shouldn't have been a grand slam. And it's like, for the Mets to not hit a single home run in this series, especially into right field, with all the left-handed hitters we have, nobody could get the job done.
With this all or nothing lineup, by the way.
And Gabriel makes a great point. Like, this is a lineup that it has power on paper.
Yes, it does.
But it's just like we don't see it on a consistent basis, or just sometimes don't see it at all. And it's like, I mean, obviously Soto's the one that stands out the most. It's like, can we do something beside walks? I mean, can we actually do something more productive here? Can we get the ball in the air? I mean, because he just needs to give it and the thing too is that he's over swinging like crazy. He's taking these massive hacks, or he's just doing little check swings like he did to second base, the ball he didn't hustle on. So it's like his just swings have been all over the place. And it's like even Lindor, I thought he would get a hold of at least one. McNeil, Beatty, I mean, like somebody just like hit it out there. Nimmo, like please. I mean, Nimmo's like this big time pull hitter now. He can't hit one out in Yankee Stadium. Like that was just so crazy to me. I could not believe what was happening. So that was just extremely frustrating. But just overall, like the other thing too that I feel like people are not talking about, but in the second game of the series, they win by 1 run. And Beatty was amazing defensively at third. Like he made so many impressive plays on the run, just like all over the field, making a bunch of great plays. If Vientos was there, how many of those plays does he make that Beatty made on Saturday? Maybe
probably not many.
Any of them. like how many of them does he make? So in a 1-run game, all that stuff is happening. Let's say if Vientos is out there, he's not making those plays. Well, the Mets probably lose that one too. So it's like it's this very small margin for error that you have when the offense is this bad, and you're walking guys and you're making all these other mistakes in the field. So it's like I just don't understand. Like again, with the thought process, we talk about like who makes the decisions here. I'm watching Brett Beatty, and I tweeted this, but like I saw Brett Beatty put on a clinic on Saturday defensively, making a whole bunch of great plays. So what do? I put Vientos back the very next day and have Marte DH. And it's like first inning, boom, we can't field the ball. Like it's just like right, it's instantly, it's right away. So I just can't. I don't understand this. Like we've talked about it. We talked about before the season started. We were unsure as to what Marte is doing here, and now we know it's to put his arms around Juan Soto when he can't get the job done. I mean that is ultimately the biggest asset that he provides to this team because he doesn't play the outfield anymore. If he does, it's only for 5 innings. He's not allowed to steal bases anymore. And he can't even get on base to begin with. So he's not DHing, really. He's not really hitting. He's here to be Soto's, I don't know, buddy. That's literally what he's here for. Because I just don't understand how it's like when you take Beatty out of third base and you put Vientos there and you put Marte and DH as the full-on replacement, you're hurting yourself defensively and offensively. It's like the most net negative decision you could make as a team, yet they are continuing to do it, and the same thing is happening over and over. And I don't understand it at all. And like the other thing that drives me nuts too is that Peterson's on the mound, ground ball pitcher. You would think that you would put your best infielders out there when you have a ground ball pitcher. Like if there was one time that Vientos should not be out there, it's when Peterson is pitching. And sure enough, what happened? The ball was on the ground and everything was going crazy around him. Like it's so frustrating. It's like these are things that you would think should not happen, cannot happen, and they continue to. So, I mean, it's just these things that, and we've pointed it out every time. Like, I don't remember which recap I was. I think it was like Friday. I was like, I feel like I'm doing the same recap over and over. Mets were 2 for 11 today, 1 for 9. They left 7 on base. They left 9 on base. Like the same thing over and over. And it's the same culprits too. I mean, when you look at what some of these guys are hitting with runners in scoring position, Soto is down to 132 with runners in scoring position this season. He batted 345 last season with runners in scoring position. I mean, what is going on here? Lindor is batting 200, Nimmo 232, Vientos is 136, and like those are the two guys that are alternating DHing. Like these are the kind of numbers that we are seeing with these guys on base. And as a team now, I mean, I remember a couple streams ago, I was talking about how like the Mets were batting like 225 with runners in scoring position. They're down to 220. So to your point, it is getting worse. So it's like you're seeing these things happen over and over. And then when you face the team with a good offense, the number one offense, in the case of the Yankees, they can hit home runs, you're not going to get away with it. So it was just really frustrating to see this happen. But I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Alonso totally airmailed a throw. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I genuinely think there's no player that I could remember when they get the ball and they have to throw it, I am like terrified. I am like, what is going to happen here? And it doesn't even matter what the throw is. A throw from first base to home plate while playing the infield in is not a difficult play for a first baseman. When the first baseman has a pitcher running to
he
cover
did it
first,
well. I'm pretty sure in game 2, didn't he execute one like an out at, and then last night he just
so he got one,
it.
but there's a lot of times where like
that's the thing. Like we've seen him do it before. It's not like,
but we've also seen him completely miss.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. So I mean, and the thing is with Alonso, we talk about like we want to make the team better, we want to be efficient. That's never getting fixed. Like that, we just have to live with that. Like we could point out flaws that could be addressed, like we want to score in position and just put Beatty at third base. That solves the Vientos issue. There's no fixing the Alonso arm. Like that is just set in stone. He's playing first, and we just have to hope that in a big spot, the ball doesn't find him. He has to throw it at home plate in a big game, because that can happen in the postseason. We're well aware of it. So it's just stuff like that that cannot get corrected. So you know that you have to go in with that. But I just think overall, it's like you have some issues with the infield defense, but you also have Juan Soto not hustling in right field. I mean, you have this guy not really going after fly balls. The Judge ground rule double, I believe it was like the Austin Wells hit. I mean, Soto is just not going all out, going after the ball. And then to follow it up, you have Jeff McNeil playing center field at 33 years old. Like, I mean, they have shown you that I don't think they really care about. We thought that Stearns was this big run prevention guy. He cared about defense. With the lineup that they're putting out there, they do not care about defense, because there are so many ways that they could be better defensively, yet those are the lineups that they're running out there. And you would think that when you do that as a team, like when the Phillies would do it, you do it to generate a bunch of offense. Like we have Castellanos and Schwarber in the outfield so that we score runs. This team still doesn't score runs, even with a horribly constructed defense. So it's like they're not getting anything done. So they're not a good defensive team. They're not a good offensive team. They have been bailed out. They have been carried by their pitching being number one in ERA, because if it was not for that, this team would not be in a playoff position, because like we said, they do not score enough runs on a consistent basis. So, and we're just seeing it happen over and over and over.
And even with the leaders being the leaders in ERA, that still doesn't tell you the full story, because unearned runs come in by errors with going on in the field. So that still disguises it and gives you some kind of excuse that this team is in such a fantastic position when they've been playing garbage baseball. They played a lot of shitty baseball. They are getting bailed out by this pitching staff. We're not saying this to be haters or to be controversial. This is what is happening, because nobody else around them, around the mound, can get the job done. The only good defensive aspect from this team has been the catchers behind the plate with their arms. Imagine if we don't have that. Be even worse. This team would not be able to function whatsoever. That Pete Alonso throw, obviously, Doug said, I had a 40-minute argument with a friend telling me that Pete Alonso is a good defensive first baseman. I don't get it. It's impossible to tell the truth with our fan base, but I love Pete. But come on, listen, we preach this constantly, where we don't tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you if we don't like something, we're going to tell you. And
I can do it for you in 40 seconds. Just go to his Savant page. He's in the 4th percentile in arm strength. He's a 0.
Here's the deal with Pete. Here's the deal with Pete.
It takes 40 seconds. It shouldn't take 40 minutes.
Is he a good defensive first baseman? Absolutely not. Does he have aspects to his defensive game that are a plus, like his scooping and his overall reaction time to the bag? Sure. But putting it all together, no, he's not a good defensive first baseman, and we got to pretend we got to not pretend like he is. He is not in the caliber of Matt Olson. He's not in the caliber of Freddie Freeman. He's not. We said this before. We said this about him in his free agency, which, again, it's just, there's limits to these players. These guys have their weaknesses. It'd be nice if you had coaches to help them. But to be honest, I don't really think this team is well coached whatsoever. With how they are coordinated defensively. And I know that's bad to say with them in first place. With 11 games over 500. But whatever. I'm easy following that up, saying I know Little League first baseman that can make a better throw to home than that. I know Pete Alonso can make a better throw to home than that, because he did it the game before. on a very similar play. He talked about it. He took accountability for it, which is what a leader does. That's great. But again, we know he can be better than that. That's the thing. And yes, we know it's not his biggest strength, but we all know that was a lot more routine than all these other things. There are aspects that you can pick out that you do like and you don't like. Another guy we've talked about, Jeremy Hefner. Jeremy Hefner's done a great job with this pitching staff this year. He has. And it's improved ever since David Stearns came in here. And we definitely have a lot to look forward to, especially with the young guys as well. But there are things about Jeremy Hefner that annoy us. And we're going to tell you. It's not to say that he's bad at his job. Sometimes the timing of him coming out to the mound, it's a little late. It's, to slow things down. I'd like to see him slow things down sometimes. Doesn't tell me that this is going to be, oh, well, that's it. I need him fired. No, that doesn't mean, no. Not what I'm saying. We're taking this way to an extreme. I feel like some things that we say on here, it's like, we're completely negating every single aspect of somebody by pointing out one. And speaking of those multiple aspects, with Pete Alonso's defense, like we have said, he's not good at it. He isn't. All right. At best, he is, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. He's not great. All right. He is not a great defensive first baseman. We know he's not. He's here to hit. And he has been hitting, which has made him continue on as a player because he's a hitter. That's what he's known to do. You can still get on him for that throw because it basically lost them the game. There's other factors as well. But again, that was a bad throw. I know he can do something better than that. I know he can. And it's all of these situations of, I know you can do better. Do better. I know you can do better. A lot of these issues on this team, mental. We've seen them argue with umpires while the player is going on. We have seen them make stupid throws, make stupid decisions constantly. What was that like a few weeks ago? Brandon Nimmo throwing to the wrong base or something. All of these guys are making these
he threw to
dumb
third
decisions
with a guy going from first to second. Like he threw it on the wrong side of the field.
Yeah. Again, it's like, and we can't even list out every single instance when this has happened because this is every series. Every series we're talking about these mental mistakes that should not be happening for a World Series team. World Series contender. Should not be happening. We shouldn't have to be talking about this. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake, but it's every single game. Piecing together a good quality 9 innings of baseball, an efficient 9 innings of baseball, has been a problem. We can't just hide behind the pitching staff being top 5 in everything. Because there are instances, and there were in this series, where it's not going to be there. And you're going to drop dead. Nothing's going to happen. Lots of unsustainable play in front of you. I don't care about if this gave you the good result or not. The next time, it's not going to be there. Most likely. Luck goes both ways. That was another excuse that I got on Twitter that runners in scoring position to success is more luck. All right. Watch them with runners in scoring position. Look at the decisions that they make, the swing decisions, the overall mindset that they have to, I don't know, fish for walks, stare at pitches in the zone, look at the other, and we'll get into that in a second. This is inefficient baseball. And it's getting bailed out by one aspect. Again, the team is 11 games over 500. The pitching is doing well. And the offense has tons of offensive talent on it, but still cannot break through. and show the actual potential that it has. I don't want it to be potential. I want it to be shown now. It's time. We're 50 games in. Show it. I am not going to talk about a team that is a $400 million payroll and applaud them for being an expensive version of the Seattle Mariners, where the pitching is there and nothing else shows up. Which, to be honest, the Mariners have actually hit okay this year, to be honest. So if you're getting lapped in that sense.
Well, that was the thing, too, is that they showed this graphic during the Subway Series that it was the Mets and the Yankees. They have like 9 guys, OPS plus 100 or above. I mean, that was going into the game.
Yeah.
And the Yankees have that, and the Mariners have it. But like
I have that right on my screen right now.
Yeah, but like we've said before, while a certain player might be a 130 bat, generally speaking, or above 100, when there's runners in scoring position, they are not that. They are all below. Most of them are below 100. Yeah. So they've become 2 separate players. So
are they underwhelming? Does that sound underwhelming to you?
Because you're not doing obviously what you're capable of, because you're doing it when there's nobody on base, which we've said constantly.
Yeah. And then that's what I will address as of right now before we get into it. I made a tweet last night on Twitter, still getting shit for it. Probably. I think I muted it or whatever. I said that this Mets team is one of the, I don't know if it's just the expectation that has been put in front of us with the high payroll and what they're paying these guys, that this team is the most underwhelming Mets team that I have seen in my life. Now, is that maybe an exaggeration? Whatever. If you want to call it that, whatever. Obviously, the responses I got fill in the blank of 3 different things. We're in first place, 11 games over 500. And then the other one is, are you 5? Because you haven't seen that many Mets teams. And then the other one just basically telling me to jump off of a bridge. Which is Twitter. I can take it, whatever. I have been in social media for years. I can take it. Fine. Let me explain why I say this. Because unfortunately, we obviously need to look at face value and give arguments without context all the time, because of course Twitter has a character limit. So anyways, let me tell you why I say that, okay? You have a $400+ million payroll right now. Your $800 million player is underperforming. Whether he has good underlying numbers or not, he's underperforming, and he's not playing to the standard that we expected him to. You have a lineup right now that is, whether it is top 10 in all of these categories, still can't manufacture enough runs to separate themselves from other offenses. You have mental mistakes in the field. You have mental mistakes on the base paths. You have mental mistakes everywhere. Why does this sound so familiar? Why does it sound so familiar that even though this team is so far above 500, why are they why are they so underwhelming? Well, does this not sound underwhelming to you? The Mets are bottom 5 in every runners in scoring position category. We know they are. Nearly everyone. And I will pull it up here. You look at this Mets lineup, like you just said, they have 8 guys at this current moment that are over league average in OPS plus. Alonso, McNeil, Soto, Lindor, Torrens, Winker, hurt. Beatty, Nimmo, and that's not even including Mark Vientos, who we have seen produce at an above average level. Francisco Alvarez, that we know can and is known for his bat, or at least was. That doesn't even include Starling Marte, the best DH ever, and constantly just underperforming. I say this not to be negative, to get clicks, to be different. I don't say it because of that. because what I'm seeing on the field is so much offensive talent. This was another thing. The Mets are top 5 in every StatCast category too. Hard hit percentage, barrel rate, expected weighted on base average. All of these stats, that's great. Awesome. But again, we're not seeing that philosophy and process translate to runs. And that's why it's underwhelming. That's why. Not just in the offensive standpoint. The way that they are relying on the pitching staff, which everyone said is weak, by the way. The way that they're relying on the pitching staff constantly. Defensive miscues. Good teams don't do that. Good teams do not do this on a daily basis. Every single series that has gone through this year, we have talked about. We're always talking about a defensive miscue that screwed up the game. We're always talking about the lack of runners in scoring position production. Because it is in every series. It's happened in every series. And we're not asking them to be perfect again. We're asking them to be efficient. So speaking of efficiency, let's actually get into this runners in scoring position discussion. Because I have quite the data to show everyone of a lot. This is a lot worse than I think a lot of people are making it out to be right now. And again, it's not because they're bad. It's because it's underwhelming. Underwhelming doesn't mean bad. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So let's take a look of this runners in scoring position situation. Individually, as a team first. Now, these numbers are skewered before the game last night, which I don't think is, much different, of course. But again, keep that in mind. So obviously, they just can't cash in because, again, when it comes to all of this production, it's great. The Mets are top 10 in so many different categories right now. Well, in team ranks with runners in scoring position, they are in the bottom 10 in batting average. They are the bottom 10 in batting average on balls in play. They strike out the most. They strike out in the bottom 5. On base percentage in the bottom 5. Slugging near the bottom 10, I guess. And with weighted runs created plus, with how it feeds into on base percentage, with as much as this team walks, which is 5th. They have 10 home runs with runners in scoring position. They are in the bottom 10 in weighted on base average. And then we see the main culprits here. You got Pete Alonso, Terren's doing well. Marte, which I think went down after the performance he had. Yeah, 0 for 2. So those numbers go down. So then it would be 4 for 19. Nimmo started off rough. He's been a little bit better recently. Still not great. Mark Vientos, what the hell happened to you? Luis Angel Acuna, terrible situationally. Juan Soto's been terrible. Lindor hasn't really been talked about that much. Has not been good with runners in scoring position. All of them below average. All of these guys below average. So again, this overall performance that we are seeing from the team, it's not just it's not just some trend with a few guys where they're not clutch or anything. This is nearly the entire team. 2 of those guys in the green that you are seeing are part-time players. Alonso is the entire team with runners in scoring position. And this is not even including when they get a runner to first base, because that's not runners in scoring position, and then they ground into a double play. Not even including that. And to be honest, again, runners in scoring position, it can be a little bit skewered because you have sacrifice flies as well, and you can go 0 for 1 with runners in scoring position and still score with a runner from third. You have I have some sacrifice flies there if you want to see that. But also, there's a number called guys left on base. Now, here's another set of numbers that I want to show you that makes this even more ridiculous than anybody really thinks so, because we always look at the individual stats for guys. But let's look at this as a whole team in team efficiency. So here is a scale from game to game of what we have been seeing with runners in scoring position with this team. Now, per 9 innings, the league average success rate is .284 batting average, or 28.4%. Small sample sizes for me in individual games just look wacky for me. I'm not really that big on it. So that's just my OCD as to why I put it as a percentage and not as a batting average. My bad. So blame me on that. So anything within 1% of 28.4% is a on-par team performance, an average team performance. Anything above 28.4% with runners in scoring position is an above par team performance. And then anything below that, inefficient. So, as for game to game, for what they've been with runners in scoring position, this is all 47 games this year. You are seeing, out of 47 games, 9 of them have been considered efficient in percentage-wise to the league average. 2 of them have been on par, so you can call that efficient as well. So that's 11. 36 of them, 36 games, have been inefficient with runners in scoring position. 36. You think that's going to help anybody? And to be honest, it continues to get worse at this rate. To be honest, they were 23.6% in March to April. They're down to 21.1%. And again, like I said, it can be skewered because, sacrifice flies can happen, which the Mets are in the top end. So left on base. They have left 313 runners on base in 47 games. That is insane. That's nuts. Per game. That's almost 7 runners left on base per game every night. Every night that is happening. And once again, you're even seeing this gradually with these game logs when they have a good game. That little, what is that? That little 3 game from game 28 to 30 right there. 100%, 58.8%, 100%. Great little stretch right there. Where'd it go? Disappeared. Disappeared. Completely disappeared. So those above average guys, and listen, it's not really that much. And that's the thing. We get a lot of criticism for criticizing this team the way that we do. We're not asking them to be perfect. We're not asking them to be 100%. We're asking them to be 284 with runners in scoring position in the game for efficiency. So you're telling me that is too much to ask for a team that has, Frank, what is it? 9 guys with OPS pluses over 100?
That's what ESPN said.
ESPN's always right?
Yeah.
So that's not that much to ask. We're not asking them to be perfect. We're asking for efficiency. That's what we're asking for. They didn't have a single above par game until game 19 this year. They've had 9. 9. That's it. They don't even have 100 hits with runners in scoring position this year. It's the middle of May. Frank, again, I'm going to insert another overreaction. You guys can overreact. You guys can say it's an overreaction all you want. Go ahead. I'm giving you an overreaction warning here. If this continues, any World Series aspirations that anybody had with this team, they will go down the toilet. And everyone's going to look back oh, this team won 103 games. Why is it so bad? Why did they not get anything done? This is why. This is why. And to be honest, we're not asking for the world. Like I said, we're asking for 287. with an offense, once again, with 8, 9 hitters. Situationally, they've stunk. And they shouldn't stink. Frank, I'll swing it over to you. This is what we've seen all year.
Oh, yeah.
This is how bad it is, guys. We're not even over-exaggerating at this point. And we all know what the issues are. Constantly. They're on display. But hey, once again, Frank, we're in first place. So shut up. Shut up. This isn't a problem. This isn't a glaring problem you got to address. We are in first place. And to be honest, I feel like that's going to scare the Dodgers away this week. We're just going to say, hey, we're in first place. And they're going to be like, okay, well, you have us beat. Meanwhile, they're holding a World Series trophy from last year. And we're sitting here as one of the worst teams with runners in scoring position. Frank, it's all yours.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the Dodgers because they're the best with runners in scoring position. They hit 306 with runners in scoring position. The Mets hit 220. So the Mets are not even in the same league when it comes to hitting with men on base. And even the Cubs are 290, and the Mets did win a series against them. So everything is all fine and dandy. But now I'm going to go a little further because, you showed the numbers of the individual players and the guys who, WRC plus, low, not doing good when it comes to men on base. But the underwhelming aspect of it is when you look at how these players did last season with men on base.
Yes.
So you have Lindor, who is hitting 200 run scoring position this year. He hit 274 last season. So when it comes to expectations, that's underwhelming. Alonso's been the reverse. I mean, we know last year we complained all year. He's been great. Okay. Nimmo, even with as terrible as Nimmo was in the second half last season, he still hit 314 with runners in scoring position.
Yes, he
this
did.
year down to 232. I mean, Vientos 136 after being 255 last year. So most of these guys, I mean, Marte, he's 222 now. He was 313 last season. So this is where the underwhelming aspect of it is coming from, because it's not like you have a lineup full of a bunch of scrubs. You have a lineup that they paid a lot of money for, that we had good expectations for. And like you said, going into the season, everyone said this team was going to be better on hitting than they were in pitching. It's been the total opposite. So, I mean, that's where the underwhelming aspect comes from, is that you have higher expectations for Lindor with men on base, for Nimmo, Vientos, Marte. Like, you expect these guys to come through much more frequently with runners scoring position. And Soto is the main culprit because I said earlier, but he had 345 last year runners scoring position. He's 132 this year. It's just insane, the disparity from where they were last season. So it's just the players individually. So that's where the underwhelming aspect comes from, because if these guys were just close to where they were last year with men on base, they're amazing. Like, this team is like not only first place, but they have one of the best record. They have the best record in the league by far, probably, if these guys actually did what they're supposed to, because we talked about a lot of these runs, a lot of these games are decided by one run or so. So it's like you actually have these guys doing what they're capable of, and you're looking much better. So that's the thing. That's where, for me, the underwhelming aspect would come from, is that if this was a team that had a bunch of guys that weren't very good, you can't say you're disappointed. You can't say you're underwhelmed because you didn't expect much to begin with. But when you have World Series aspirations, you have these players, you spend this amount of money on the team, you expect to get much more than what you've gotten. And like you're showing, most of the time, they're not giving you what they should have. They're not even giving you average offensive production. And the fact that it is getting worse and is happening much more consistently is also very concerning. So we'll see how it goes. And you know what? I'm sure that when they play the White Sox next week or later this week, and they go, 2 for 11 run scoring position, they strand a bunch of guys on and still win the game 3-2, everyone's gonna be like, oh, first place, oh, they won the series. But they're still having the same issues, but they're getting rid of it because the White Sox. When they face the Rockies the weekend after that and do the same thing, oh, it's fine, they're still in first place. But it's like, you don't play the Rockies and you don't play the White Sox in the postseason. So you got to figure it. You have to do it against them, because you have to figure it out eventually. It's not a switch. It's not something where you could be bad with run scoring position all season long, and then playoffs start and you're like, oh, we can hit with runners now. Like that, it doesn't work like that. So, and
pitching's
like
going to get more difficult that you're going to face.
Yeah.
So,
and here's the thing too, is you have it right now. They are not struggling. Right now they are struggling with run score position. We know that. So what can you do about it? And we've talked about, well, one of the things you could do is steal bases because, like I said, far too often their approach with men on is that they're looking for walks, and that they draw walks, they get on base, but then they can't do anything about it. And the problem also with this team, and I've said before, is the lack of speed. Don't steal bases. They don't go first to third. They can't score from first when they actually do hit the ball. They can't score from second. It's like they don't have the other ways you could go about it if you're struggling with men on base. It's like you could do other things to make up for it with your speed. They don't have that. I mean, the way this team is constructed, they are extremely slow. I mean, and it just frustrates me that Lindor is not being more aggressive trying to steal bases because, I mean, between Pete and Vientos and Jeff and then Beatty getting nailed at home plate,
and that's
Alvarez,
another thing of these
so
guys,
many guys
performing
who are
individually
brutally slow. And I bet they have to be below league average as far as sprint speed, especially per positions.
Oh, yeah.
Like they have got to be below league average a lot of errors. Nimmo does not steal bases anymore. So it's like you have just this entire team outside of Acuna. These guys are not stealing bases. They're not being aggressive. They can't go first to third. They can't go second to home. So when they're just drawing walks, it's like they literally need to hit the ball out of the ballpark to get runs, because even if they got a single, they're probably getting one run out of it. And it's like, that's still not going to get it done. So that's the thing that's frustrating too, is that even when they do get the hits with runners in scoring position, they're still not going to score that many runs with how slow these guys are.
Yeah. No, that's another thing that you can add here. It's like, yeah, they're getting the hits. Yeah, we have at face value, we're seeing, oh, well, they're as a team, they're top in this. Yeah, they are.
Because that's the
so
thing
they
too.
should be showing it when it matters.
So that's the thing too, is that there's plenty of times where they do have runs in scoring position and they draw walks. So you might say like good WRC plus, good OPS, like you could say that, but that's why we look at
the thing.
Yeah, but that's really good. The average with runners scoring position, like the amount of runners stranded, like the 40 double plays, like all these other things, they overcome it. That it's like, no, wait a minute. There's like all these other things that say no,
because this context
is not good. And the most
doesn't
important thing
matter.
The most important thing, you finish with 2 runs scored or 3 runs scored. So you can get a bunch of guys on,
all
but
that,
if you're not
nothing.
cashing them in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then the pitching has got to be on the workhorse. And I saw some people talking about Mendoza in the chat. It's just like, yes, Mendoza has made some questionable calls. I'm not going to let him go off freely. But when the hitting is so awful and so inept like this, hit more. And then you wouldn't have to talk about that. I shouldn't have to ask that from a team with 9 guys and with above average OPS pluses right now. Not even including some guys who have had success in the past before. This is the whole thing where this whole entire argument of the Mets being in top 10 stats,
well, the other
context doesn't matter.
Yeah, the other thing here's context for you. The other thing about the ESPN stat, one of them is Jesse Winker, who's on the injured list. The other one is Luis Perez, who's a part-time player and doesn't really play.
Yes.
And one of the other ones is Brett Beatty, who also doesn't play enough. So it's like really
who they don't trust against lefties.
Yeah. And that's the thing that always drove me nuts. They did it when the other players were younger, and it was actually Conforto that they did it too. That really drove me nuts when I actually liked him. Is if a developing young player is struggling against lefties, the only way they can improve is to face lefties, to make adjustments, to get reps with it. You can't just hide them. You can't just shelter them and protect them, because they're not constructed where it's like
limiting their value.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, we don't have to play Beatty because we're just putting Marte in. Like, that's making the team worse. Like, that's not actually helping you short term. And more important, it's not helping you long term, because hopefully Beatty could be here for a long time. And after this season, we don't have to see Marte anymore. So it's like we should put more value in trying to have Beatty overcome these issues and face his fears, so to speak, than just having Marte out there with total uncompetitive at bats. And he, like, you want to talk about bad swing decisions, bad approaches with runners in scoring position. He's the epitome of it. He is the king in swinging at bad pitches and taking good pitches. And he does it all the time. But this, Carson, is our veteran leader. This is our mentor for Juan Soto. This is the guy our young players should look up to. The guy that does everything totally wrong at the plate is the guy who's supposed to be the veteran leader.
Yeah. And gets paid like an everyday player to do it.
Yep.
Sick. Crazy. Crazy concept, isn't it? It's the fact that, this is my whole thing with this. And what I really think gets very misconstrued with a lot of people that I talk to a lot, whether they disagree with me or not. A lot of these numbers get used as a Bible and not a resource. Like we have said before, it needs to be used as a resource. Like weighted runs created plus, like we have said. It is a good measurement of offensive production, but there's flaws to it too. They weigh out maybe a little bit too much, to walks a little bit, and don't factor in, the speed of the player that can steal bases.
There's weighted runs created because there's so many opportunities. Because like you said, they're stranding so many runners and squandering so many opportunities. But a lot of those weighted runs created are not actually. I used to have this argument like many years ago. Runs created. You know what I mean? Like they should.
There's a difference between run creation and run production. That's the different thing, and that's the one thing that I think sets a lot of people off with weighted runs created plus. And even with that in mind, there also is a part of weighted runs created plus that is not predictive. They don't have any predictive. That's what for StatCast things. Like there's a different way that you can look at it of where things are flawed. And that's the way that I like to explain them on this show, where I'm like, okay, well, this is a good way to look at something, but also we have another way that you can look at it, because some things can be flawed and some things can be skewered. Some things can be like that. And for some reason, we constantly see things of how it's Bible to make everyone feel secure of, well, they're top 10 in ERA. They're top 10 in weighted runs created plus, so they're fine. Context doesn't matter in that conversation. It does, because I'll have people go after me for Jeff McNeil, for the stuff that I've said about Jeff McNeil. But again, it's about the context here with Jeff McNeil. My problem with Jeff McNeil has nothing to do with his production. It's more of what he can provide to this team. Because again, the way that he is producing and why his OPS plus is so high, because again, context matters. He's been taking a good amount of walks. He hits singles, doesn't really have much power. I don't know how many he has like 5 extra base hits right now. But what is he going to do when he gets on? He's not going to steal. He's not going to go first to third. So again, it's basically how this team gels together and how efficient it is for the team. It's not about the stat line. Oh, well, Pete Alonso's in the top of MVP. That's all I care about. No, I don't care. I don't care. I care about efficient offense, efficient team. That's not my problem with McNeil, because I know that McNeil can be a plus bat. I've seen him do it before. It's not my problem with him. And when he's not a plus bat, that's when I really start to get on him. But again, it's more of what these guys provide and how they complement each other. And the full-on stats of, well, they're top 10 in this category as a team, that doesn't tell you the entire story of what's going on here. And that's, again, top 10 in offensive categories, but yet they're not scoring runs. Why is that? Why is that? No, it's just, the world's against us. That's it. Got to play the victim. Because, every $1 billion lineup and $400 million payroll, we need to find excuses as to why things are not working out. Instead of actually looking at the information as to why and addressing it, we need to continue to use that as a crutch to make ourselves feel better. Because again, if they're top in ERA and they're 7th in weighted runs created plus right now, hang the banner. Go ahead. While the Dodgers go ahead and win an actual banner and win a World Series. Go ahead and do that. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to. Again, in context, there's problems here. There's issues. It's about the quality of wins for me, not the quantity. And then that might maybe say that I'm discrediting their win-loss record. No, I'm saying that there's issues and they shouldn't be complacent with what is happening right now. if you're okay with the way that they're playing baseball right now because they're winning, it's not going to keep up. And then we're going to talk about this in July if this continues, these types of habits continue. We're going to talk about this in July and August, and they're going to be like, what happened? We were 11 games over 500. What happened? Here's what happened. The signs were there the whole time. Look under the hood. That was me looking under the hood. I'm a good mime. It's right there. It was right there. It's right there the entire time. We have said this all year. And if they don't address it, it does not get improved, then they're going to continue to die by it. This expression in basketball, you live by the three, you die by the three. You live by the bat, you live by the pitching, you'll die by the pitching. It's what they're doing. They're living on pitching. Can you believe that? An over $1 billion lineup right now is relying on the pitching to carry them through the rocks. The pitching that stinks. By the way, the pitching that I was told is terrible. And David Stearns has no idea what he's doing because he's not getting good ERAs in there. Yeah. There's some dimensions of this offense. It's not dynamic enough. It's just not dynamic enough. So they're going to have to get extra base hits. Something that the Yankees do well. They don't have that much, dynamic skills in that lineup. They're built on power. They're built on extra base hits. Can somebody tell me one everyday player on this team that gives you multiple tools offensively? Maybe Lindor, which he hasn't really been doing that much. Which, to be honest, him as a catalyst, he wasn't that great in this series, which is, probably one of the main reasons why they didn't do well. That top three was not great in this series. Soto, we know, doesn't even care to run at this point. He was jogging on to first yesterday. Pete Alonso, those thunder thighs ain't moving quick. Is Luis Torrens going to steal bases? Brett Beatty going to steal bases? Jeff McNeil? Francisco Alvarez, is he going to do that? Again, skill sets, how they complement each other. Mark Vientos is going to steal bases. How this complements it. You can have all, again, this has been said before in New York Rangers context, but I'll say it here. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't play the right way, you're not going to get the job done. And I'm not saying play the right way as to be perfect. Like we said with the runners in scoring position, efficient. Bat 280. Some people in the chat said 265. I'll take that too. Because that's within the confines. That's fine.
Yeah, that puts you number 7, tied with the Padres. You'd be at 265.
It's better than what we're seeing right now.
A lot better than 220.
A lot better than 220. A lot better than constant 1 for 7 and 1 for 8. McNeil isn't the problem, but he's not part of the solution either. That's the thing. You have a lot of guys who it's not really complemented well, and they're going to have to live and die by a lot of aspects in this game. It's basically how it is. Some of the comments in here, I do want to get into a few of them because there is, some of these comments, I feel like a lot of them agreeing with us. I see Ricardo agreeing a lot with what I was saying. Gabriel saying, do you think that it's too late in the season for there to be changes with hitting coaches and any real philosophical fixes? I mean, at the moment, I don't know how much will change if you end up getting rid of Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. But it's a step in the right direction. And after you're seeing this production from these guys in this lineup, like we said, you have tons of guys with above average production, some guys that are underperforming. Like we have said, Francisco Alvarez, we know he's better than a 97 OPS plus bat. We know he's better than that. And, you know, you're getting that type of production right now. Mark Vientos, we know he's better than 97. So I think that it would improve, but you're going to have to hire the right person. And we will have that discussion about Eric Chavez, because there is even more of a specific situation with Eric Chavez that I want to get into that is so toxic for this team. Eventually we'll talk about it. But now is not the right time. Maybe it's, you know, after May's done. Maybe it's the middle of June. Maybe it's the All-Star break. But it does eventually need to be addressed because it's not going to be fixed if he's still here. But again, it's more of just the fact that we know that this team is capable of these things because they have a track record of doing it. But again, when you have all of these situations where if the Mets have this or if the Mets have that, you got to show it. Someone's going to have to show it eventually. You can't just tell me, well, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Prove to me that we're going to be fine. Prove to me that this team can produce. Because I know you can. Because they obviously can produce for themselves. Why don't you produce for the team? Like you said, OPS plus for some of these guys, a lot of them over above average right now. Individually, they look good. Individually, great. How does it gel together? Hasn't. They've been terrible with runners in scoring position. And like I said, any World Series aspirations that you have, they will be flushed down the toilet if they don't figure this out. Because we saw what happens when they don't hit with runners in scoring position and the pitching doesn't do what it's been confident in doing so far, which is carrying them through, you know, the fire. When that doesn't happen, you're losing. And we saw that in this series against a Yankees team that doesn't let up mistakes like the Pirates do. This is the reality of the situation. This isn't us hating. This isn't us being negative, trying to be different. You're seeing this on the field. We can do a full film study of what this team does with runners in scoring position, pitch by pitch. Swinging at this pitch, swinging at that pitch, not swinging at this pitch. The timely philosophy is terrible. Awful. We've said it so many times. Constantly down 0-2. Not swinging in hitters' counts. 2-1, 3-1. Chasing pitches all in the other batter's box. Staring at pitches. Not being able to lift the ball for a sacrifice fly. Hitting the ball on the ground too much, and they have no speed to beat it out.
Or
do we understand how they're being handcuffed here?
By getting into scoring position. Because if you're at first base, you can steal second, you hit the ball on the ground, not as big a deal. But since you didn't steal second, it's a double play no matter what. Because the guy situational awareness, second, none. And the guy going from home to first is too slow, is going to be out.
Yeah. No situational awareness. None. Zero. Zilch. And it makes you feel like you're watching a Hunger Games of 9 innings every night. How are we going to string this together? How are we going to do this journey together? If you guys are okay with seeing that through 162 games, fine by me. I have a little bit more higher standards and higher expectations for this team, which is not to be perfect. It is to be efficient, which they have not been. It's the truth. Sorry to burst the bubble. Sorry to say that this team maybe be in first place, but it's going to backfire. You saw it with the Yankees. Guess what? When the postseason comes, you're going to be playing good teams. You're not going to be playing the Pirates, the Rockies, the White Sox, the A's. Remember when we said that Braves team was 0-7? Ha ha. Ha ha, Braves. They're 5 games back of the Mets now. And why did that happen? We're top 3 in ERA. How did that happen? We're 7 in weighted runs created plus. We're in first place. How did that happen? Could it be a baseball season happened? And then everybody acts all shocked. That's what I don't get. It's the constant cycle over and over again. Identify the problem then. This is an issue. It's an issue. Doesn't seem like they have any identity here. There really isn't. It's basically just whatever. Mail it in here. Let the pitching kill themselves. And I can't blame Mendoza's bullpen decisions or this or that or that. They have to perform. The offense has been so underwhelming that I don't care. It's like, again, the Mets will be, I bet you this is going to happen in the next few weeks. The Mets will be in a 1-run game. They'll be winning 2-1. Edwin Diaz will take the blame in the 9th because obviously Diaz has to be the scapegoat for everything. Diaz will take the blame for blowing it in the 9th because it'll be all his fault while the team is 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position in that game. And everyone will want Diaz gone. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. But then there's a refusal to lay in your own shit. And that shit is this. 36 inefficient performances with runners in scoring position in a possible 47 games. Unacceptable. If I showed you this, Frank, at face value right here, where would you think that this team is record-wise?
Last place.
Interesting.
Or close to it. I mean, because it's like, unless you had incredible pitching, how would you be able to overcome it? And that's how, by being first in ERA. That's the only way you can be a successful team when your offense is consistently that bad.
Yeah, and that sounds like a team like the Brewers, not the Diamondbacks, like Seattle. Where do they go every year? Looking for the banners. Where are they? They're nowhere. They obviously don't have the resources to do it, such as this Mets team. The Mets have the capability to do this. It's true. I don't know what to tell you. Lots of red. Daniel is correct. Lots of red. And that's where I'm just like, okay, I can bypass pretty much any pitching performance at this point. That's literally all I can, I really can, because the offense fails to show up. Now, as for pitching performances, because again, that's more of an over-exaggeration. I do want to talk about pitching performances because again, there's accountability that we have to put out to them. But I want to talk about a trend that we have seen for multiple years now. I think it's pretty much been established now. The clock has struck May, and Tyler Megill has hit a skid. The last 3 starts have not been fantastic for him, and I just want to do a little bit of a refresher here. Nothing really too crazy of how it has been for Megill. 9 starts this year. The last 3 have not been good for him. Walking decent amount of batters, not going deep into the games. He went 5 innings, 4 2/3, 2 2/3 against the Yankees, possibly the worst starting outing we've seen from any Mets pitcher this year. And we are starting to see him falter once again. April was great. This was a sub 1.5 earned run average pitcher going into May. 3 starts in, it hasn't looked good. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up has nothing to do with its 3 starts and do we need to start to get concerned about Tylor Megill and, this is the end of his career. No, it's not what I'm saying. The reason why I'm saying this is we know that there are parts of this rotation that need to come back from injury. And we know that there are going to be pieces that they do address. And they're going to have corresponding moves. Right now, Tylor Megill is making his case to be the first one sent out of here when one of those injuries are done. When one of those injuries are completely cleared up and one of these guys are activated from the injured list. And another reason why I'm saying this is, Frank, we have seen this before a lot. Great start from Megill. Looks promising from all these adjustments that he makes. And then after a few starts, just completely face plants for no reason. Oh, I mean, we know the reasons. Shoots himself in the foot. But now, obviously, the situation that he is in right now, it's in kind of a point of pitching for his job, even though that he has done a decent job overall so far this year. Just because they have major league pieces, such as Montas and Manaea, on their way back eventually. So he's definitely on, I don't want to say borrowed time, but he is on ticking time as of right now. I think now, I can't say I'm shocked to see this happen because we've seen it happen before. But I think this is pretty much what he is now. Like that's pretty much it. As many adjustments as this guy can make. How many times can we do this a discussion of, well, Megill has these tools to do it and he just can't find a way to grab his footing consistently. He's even said consistency is my key here. Consistency. Last 3 starts, that's not what it's been. So to stop this potential spiral that we see from Tylor Megill, which we've seen many, many times before, he's looking like the odd man out right now. And I think you can agree.
I mean, that's the way it's looking so far. I mean, they still have time because, as we've talked about before, with starting pitchers, there's a long ramp-up process. So the fact that Manaea, Montas have not made rehab starts yet, there still is time for Megill to figure it out and get back on track. But from what we've seen lately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And based off history, that's not in his favor either. Because like you said, this is not the first, second, or third time this happened where we saw him good in April, then May comes around and everything goes downhill. So it's just very frustrating because, like you said, he's made these adjustments. He's incorporated new pitches. He's tried to do things differently, yet he still runs into issues. And he talked about how this year the focus was to, attack the zone, be more aggressive, and really like pound strikes. But then you saw the total opposite this past start where he walked 5 batters. He was not doing what he said he was going to do now. So that was frustrating. And you have to wonder if you're starting to see more hits pop up here and there. And you have to wonder like where the confidence aspect of it is. Is that because he's not missing bats as much? You see some hits happen and then you see bad defense in the field. It doesn't help any of the pitchers either. If you get a little nervous and you're like, you know what, maybe I got to be a little more careful here. Maybe I got to try to nibble the strike zone a little bit. You get a little Jose Quintana like of last season with the Mets. and all of a sudden you're walking batters and just putting yourself in really bad situations, falling behind in counts, and then forcing yourself to throw pitches that you really didn't want to. They're in the zone and the hitters crush it. So it is just a recipe for disaster when you're facing a team as good offense as the Yankees in that ballpark kind of power that they have. When you walk that many batters, you're really just asking to have a bad outing. So, I mean, that was what happened, but he's had other issues too. I mean, he's had starts where he gave up too many hits. So, like, there's been just many different things that have gone wrong here for Megill this season. And like you said, he has good stuff. So it's just frustrating when you see this happen over and over. And he right now is first man up because Canning has still been excellent. He's been a pleasant surprise. David Peterson, all in all, he had some not great defense behind him. He walked some batters he shouldn't have, but he was still able to turn out a very good start and match up what Max Fried was doing. Sanga's been excellent. Clay Holmes is getting a little better. So Megill's the odd man out so far. I mean, that's just kind of the way it's been with this rotation. And what they do with him at this point, I don't even know, because when you're missing bats, you're walking batters, you can't even transition them to the bullpen. I mean, if anything, he would have to go back down to AAA again, which I know he doesn't want. But when you're pitching like that, that's where you end up.
Yeah, listen, I've made it note with Tyler Megill as to when balls are put in play with him, it always seems like the defense half-asses a lot of things. I've said this before. I really think that I mean, obviously, it's more set up where he's here to miss bats. He's here to get swings and misses. Obviously, when the ball gets put in play, there is terrible defense behind him. There is. There always is. There constantly is. Does he have that mental state to overcome that, such as somebody like David Peterson has been able to do these last 2 years? No, it doesn't seem like he does have that. And we're kind of dealing with fool's gold at some point when we're talking about that. Now, of course, this year and last year, both of them combined from the defense behind him, a -10 outs above average behind him. Obviously not putting him in the best position. But, however, before everyone jumps up my throat for saying this is he's making excuses for Megill. The point in the matter here is you're putting this in a position for a pitcher who obviously cannot handle it. Can't handle these situations where he's pitching from the stretch as a long guy who's a little bit slower to the plate as a tall guy or whatever. And you're also looking at somebody who has had control issues as well. Once again, walking almost 12% of batters this year. So again, it's a bad combination. It's not something that can be dialed in with him. And I think that as of right now, this is the identity of Tyler Megill. This is pretty much it. This is what he does. He's got great swing and miss stuff. He's got great stuff in general. Plenty of arm talent. But still, the execution, the consistency, downhill, gone. It can go downhill real quick. We still are talking about a situation where either the pitcher can't develop or he's just not in a situation where he's able to do it. Both of them can be true, but I don't think that the Mets want to sit here and wait around for it. So at some point, Megill, you're 29. This is getting old. I think we all can agree this is getting old. I like Megill. We know I like Megill. I'm a fan of his stuff. I know he has talent. He definitely does. He has better stuff than Peterson. Oops. It's true. But, however, stuff overall and explosiveness, that's not measured with a strike zone. So you got to throw strikes. He's talked about it before. He's got to throw strikes. He's got to find that consistency. We haven't seen that those last 3 starts. And the main reason why we're talking about it here is, well, yeah, it's going downhill from something we have seen for multiple years now. Not just last year, year before we've seen it. We've seen it happen multiple times now. So unless this gets picked up in the next start that he makes or the one after that, if he figures it out in May, we're going to have to establish that this is what he is. And I think we all really know what Tylor Megill is, even before this season. But as a great man once said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, makes me a dumbass. And that's what we're dealing with here with Tylor Megill. I've talked about it before. The guy's been a tease for too long. This is it. And whether it is Paul Blackburn who comes back, or whether it is Sean Manaea who comes back, or Frankie Montas, he's going to be the first guy out of here. So, again, when we see Tylor Megill have a great spring and finally put it together, we got to see what's at the end of the rainbow first. Can't jump on it yet. I've gotten criticism for criticizing Megill. I've gotten criticism for, hyping up Megill and supporting Megill. Can't win. You can't win whatsoever. I'm just going to guess that he's just the kind of situation. He's the kind of situation where you just can't win whatsoever. It's a double-edged sword. These are the same issues we're seeing. We're not seeing the home run issue as much. Recently, he's starting to make some shitty pitches as well, but this is definitely not a good performance that we are seeing from him. Obviously, the Mets offense still needs to perform. Again, we've talked about it before. But again, with these corresponding moves in need in the future, with guys coming back from injury, Megill, the clock's ticking, man. He's had 76 career starts already. He's pitched almost 400 innings. And he probably would have more if he can get out of the third inning and the fourth inning sometimes. I don't know how many times we can do this and say, well, he's got the talent. Like I've said before, earlier, talent doesn't mean a thing unless you play the right way. Same thing goes for Tylor Megill. Same thing goes. Doug's saying the difference between Megill and Peterson is going to get paid next year. Is it next year? He's an ARB2? And Megill will be in Korea next year.
Other time he's getting up there. He's been both these. I mean, Pearson debuted in 2020, so he's been here a while.
Yeah. It's only so many times where we can be fooled by the great big drip. This is it. This is the meet potential man. We're gonna have to see it eventually. This is year 5. Year 5. And he has had 15 plus outings in every single one of these years. Whether it's out of the bullpen or it's in the rotation. We've seen a good amount of Tylor Megill. So it'll be the last. He's up for a contract after next year, Peterson. So he'll probably get, I don't know, he'll probably get like 8 or 9 million in ARB3, right? Something like that. Yeah. Because he got, what was it, 5 million this year or something like that. Yeah. So he'll get a good amount.
I don't know how the Mets keep ending up with the worst brothers. I mean, that's just the way it seems. If only we had Trevor Megill instead.
Always the Seth, never the Steph.
Yeah. That's right. And Megill Pearson gets paid $4.625 million.
I mean, we did end up with the good d'Arnaud, but then we just let him go.
Yeah, right? That's a good point.
Yeah, and even with that, we also had some issues with Travis d'Arnaud as well. specifically behind the plate, the battery of doom between him and Syndergaard. But again, Jesus Christ. Okay. Either way, with Megill, with this starting rotation that we know is going to have guys who come back. Speaking of those guys that will come back, I'm going to swing this one over to Frank for the injury report. We got a decent amount of updates and some check-ins as well with some of these guys. And we're getting close to seeing how this team is going to be shaped out down the stretch of the season. So, Frank, the floor is yours with the injury report.
All right, so starting it off with starting pitcher Sean Manaea. He threw his second bullpen session this week after last Thursday's 15-pitch session went well without issue, as he's expected to start throwing with up-downs before facing live hitters. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza clarified that the 33-year-old southpaw still has ways to go, but is trending in the right direction. Manaea has been sidelined since the beginning of spring training due to a right oblique strain. Frankie Montas, Mets starting pitcher, threw a bullpen session with High A Brooklyn on Saturday after and is expected to throw another one this Tuesday. Mets manager reported that the result of Tuesday's session will determine the 32-year-old right-hander's status to begin a minor league rehab assignment. Montas is currently on the 60-day injured list due to a right lat strain that he suffered back in March. Tyrone Taylor, Mets outfielder, was dealing with some cramping in his calf after diving back head first into second base during Saturday afternoon's game. The 31-year-old was not in the starting lineup the next day, but came into the game as a defensive replacement in the eighth inning. Mets manager said that Taylor was good to go in center field yesterday, but opted to give Taylor the day off with no further concern. And Tyrone Taylor is in the starting lineup tonight in center field, so all is well there. Ryan Stanek, Mets reliever right knee, was barking a little bit during the eighth inning of yesterday's game, which was the reason for the sudden mound visit by coaches and trainers. Mets manager stated that Stanek was checked on after coming out of the game and felt better shortly after. That was super weird, where Stanek was just like, it looked like something happened. I thought it was another oblique. And the trainer, Hefner, Mendoza, everyone comes out there, and it was really like a few seconds. He's like, "No, I'm good." Like, that was so weird. He was still throwing a bunch of 100s.
I saw so many go. Yeah, I saw so many guys go out to the mound. I was like, "Oh God, he's dead."
He's dead. I was like, "Oh God, here we go." Like, he threw 100 pitches. I mean, 100. He threw a bunch of 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. It felt like 100 pitches because he threw a lot for a reliever, especially a one-inning reliever. So, I mean, if his knee was bothering him, throwing all those pitches did not do any favors, I would think.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes a long way. And again, this really just shows about. I mean, again, I don't think that this bullpen is, whether it's the decisions or whatever, they're overworked in this. Like they are working in tight spaces here because of the predicaments that this offense is giving us. I mean, that's literally how it is. We all know that it is. And again, I'm not going to completely flame this as a red flag with this team of, well, the manager's going to screw everything up and hitters got to perform. That's it. That's been the difference maker for so many of these games. We know it has. If you don't think so, lost cause. Anyways, speaking of lost causes and found causes, what the hell am I even saying? Studs and duds. One player in this series that was good and one player that was not. Definitely some events, very eventful. Again, this was quite the event they tried to make this into, with Soto returning to Yankee Stadium. And it was kind of weak, in my opinion. Overall production was not great. Team didn't play great. Wasn't really much of a battle to me. Just saw the Mets kind of shooting themselves in the foot a lot. Frank, I will go to you for your stud in this series.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not many to choose from. I had one guy I was thinking, but I'm actually going to give it to Huskar Brazaban. I was very impressed with the way he was able to bail out Griffin Canning in game 2, because Canning, he had put a lot of traffic on the bases. I mean, 7 hits, a walk. Brazaban comes in with men on, shreds all of them, proceeds to pitch next inning. Everything good there. And I was very surprised that he pitched last night, considering that he had thrown an inning and 2/3 the day before. And he put himself into trouble, not the greatest defense around him too. but he still got out of it. So I do have to give him credit there. I just feel like if they actually use him the way he had been used the whole season, where like if you throw multiple innings, you get multiple days off, he would have been fine. And overall, I mean that ERA is now under 1. So I mean he's been a under the radar storyline of this year. Why do the Mets have the number 1 ERA? He's a part of it. Like he definitely is a big reason as to why they've won a lot of these games.
Yeah. Again, I think Brazaban, I don't want to say it's a Swiss Army knife type of situation with him, because I think there is a certain role you need to give to him of, whether it's 4 outs or whatever. I don't think you're going to see this in this upcoming Boston series. I don't think he's going to pitch at all because of the workload that he's had. But I hope that, a lot of the arms are fresh. You probably won't see Stanek for this first game. But speaking of bullpen arms, listen, the Subway Series comes with a lot of trash talk, and it comes with a lot of craziness. Mets fans and Yankee fans trying to get it into each other's heads. I don't really care about that. I never really have cared about it, because it's just so, like, it's the same discussion. You have everything, and, everybody likes to nitpick in these things. I don't really care. I really care more about my team, of what's going on. I just see it as another game. But if we're talking about your World Series, what I saw from Edwin Diaz, that's my World Series right there. Had nothing to do with Judge, had nothing to do with the fact that it's the Yankees. It's the fact that Edwin Diaz looked so sharp. He looked really, really good. And it really looks like he's starting to come into form. To see him weaponize the slider the way that he did, to see him gas up to 99 to 100, we're starting to see a little bit of the Diaz of old. We're seeing him, he's still a little wild. There's still some things he's got to, some dents he's got to even out. Still got to lower the walks a little bit. But we're really, really starting to see Edwin Diaz come into form. And again, those struggles that he had, I would much rather see him struggle at the beginning of the season compared to, right now, where you're getting, or not really getting, but close to the home, where you're in the home stretch where we need him the most. And obviously with these tight games, we're going to need him in the 9th inning many, many, many times before. And we saw some stuff about Edwin Diaz talking about his confidence. It seems like the confidence is up. I'm pretty sure they fixed something where like his legs were uneven or something. I don't know, like with mechanics, not like physically, because that probably would be nearly impossible for human possibility. Maybe no, there's some uneven people who need hip replacements. Anyways, probably Marte needs a hip replacement. But in those mechanical ways, if they find something, and it seems like he said that I'm doing anything that I want on the mound right now, and then when I hear that, I'm like, yeah. All right, let's go. That's the 39 I know. That's the Edwin Diaz that I know. And I want to see him continue to build on it. So that was the highlight of this series. There weren't many for the Mets. That was very enjoyable, especially after that game 2, which was not fun. That wasn't fun, to be honest. At all. I didn't like that game, and it wasn't fun. But then Edwin Diaz came in and gave me a joy and said that was all, that was all the joy I needed, and he fixed everything. Because everybody knows how excited I get when Edwin Diaz gets to the mountaintop, and you guys know that's my number one guy right there. So there you go. Duds, plenty of them. Frank, I will swing it over back to you for this series.
Yeah, I mean, I have to pick Soto. I mean, I know he drew some walks in game 1, but I mean, once again, with men on base, nothing going on there. Defensively, not hustling. I mean, you have you're in a 2-2 game also offensively, and you're not hustling to first base on a diving play by a second baseman. Like, if there was ever a time to hustle, like that was it. And it's just like, as a fan, it was very frustrating, because it's like, you're in Yankee Stadium, they're making this whole big storyline, and it's like, can you just silence the crowd for once? Can you just silence the broadcast for once? Come through with a big hit like you did against the Mets a million times when you're with the Washington Nationals. It's like, could you get at least one for us? This way it would be like, oh, at least we got something. We had nothing to show for it. Like, it was just an embarrassment for Met fans, and he didn't really seem to care much. I mean, this seemed like an exhibition game to him, the way he was just joking around with Judge the whole time and chatting with the catchers. And I mean, like, he was having a time of his life while we were getting tortured by, the constant camera on the Yankee fans, all the Soto jerseys that have Ben Rice's name on it now, just like all this stuff that was going on around us. And it didn't seem to bother him whatsoever. Like, he let down Met fans and didn't have a care in the world. Like, you know what? If you're going to be bad, okay, that's annoying. But if you're not going to hustle and be bad, that's just unforgivable. So it's just been, the start to year one has not been a good start. And the good and bad news is that there's 14 more years to go. So, 10 years from now, 11 years, 12 years, 13 years from now, it's not going to get any better. So these next however many 9 or 5 or 7 need to be amazing. Like, because their personality is not going to change. Like, he's another guy not going to get faster. So they're also going to have a conversation of like, how long can you have this guy in right field? Because number one, he's not very fast. Number two, he's not trying. So eventually he's going to be a DH. So they just have, they went for it. Hopefully it pays off. But man, it's just really, you want to talk about underwhelming. We know, if anyone knows what he's capable of, it's Met fans, as this guy continued to crush us. And he won a World Series with the Washington Nationals, and he was huge for the Yankees last year. And to see just the lack of care has just been very aggravating. Like, he didn't silence them once.
Yeah, I really just saw, when we have the debate, is this guy a man or a mouse? I saw a mouse the whole entire series. I'm not saying this to say that, it's been underwhelming. That's literally what it's been. That this is literally how I can, that's the way that I can describe it here. I really, I'm getting a little suspicious at this current moment. I know we had some kind of article go out from ESPN about like Soto misses everything and he's just his body language. That I'm going to continue to, I'm going to ignore it for now, because again, the guy who put that out, is basically a guy who just, treads water for the Yankees. We had Jeff Passan kind of disprove a few things. But there is one thing that I did see on Twitter, and of him, of Juan Soto not hustling out that ground ball. And it says, who is going to, somebody asked, like, who's going to have the balls to step up to Soto and tell him that plays like this are not acceptable? We got a quote tweet from Hojo, Mr. 3030, saying nobody in that locker room. So I'm just saying, I'm not referring to anything there. I mean, but that's the voice of a Mets legend right there. So I'm not going to tell you that it's all fun and games right now. He's going to have to get it together, because if we continue to see things like this after having a 15-year agreement, this is going to get bad. This is going to get really bad really quick. I don't think it's going to. I think eventually it's all going to work out, because we saw the same thing with Francisco Lindor. We've seen it with Piazza.
Well, at least Lindor tried.
Lindor tried, yes.
And he made up for it defensively. This guy has no redeeming qualities.
Frank, he was smiling when he struck out in spring training against Jacob deGrom.
Right,
yeah. I mean, he's an awful person too, who stole all that money. But again, I'm not ready to throw him out, but I'm not ready to throw him off the Whitestone Bridge here. But I'm just saying, it's like, this is one of those situations where eventually something is going to have to be, and that is true too. The thumbs down thing was another thing where, the first year for Lindor was rough. And I think somebody earlier in the chat said it. They said, does this team kind of remind you of the 2021 team? I'm seeing a decent amount of it, a lot of aspects, not completely. I'm pretty sure they were 10 games over 500 at one point, and in first place. They were in first place for what, over 100 days in that season or whatever in 2021.
Was that 2022 when they were
22 too? Yeah, we constantly choke these things away. But I mean, you had a team that was inept completely at hitting with runners in scoring position. You had your new star that you acquired underperforming. All that's missing is for the entirety of the roster to go down with injury. That's it. That's all that's really missing as of right now at the trajectory that you're going. And I'm hoping it doesn't. And I'm not comparing it to the 2021 team, but I'm seeing some aspects here. And I don't want to go through another Lindor first year with Soto this time. Because again, you got even more high stakes now. This is a team coming off of a National League Championship Series, not coming off of a pandemic year where Ahmed Rosario and what's his name? Who's the other guy? And Jake Marisnick was torturing us out there in the field.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming off of something that we want to build off of last year. So again, you know, I don't think that I don't think that he's part of the major problem, but he's definitely not being part of the solution. And he's going to become part of the problem if this doesn't pick up. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to completely overreact yet, but I'm still frustrated watching this because it's so typical to see somebody just come here with some kind of adjustment period to their Mets career. It always happens, but it's so brutal to watch. So brutal. Beyond brutal to watch. We've seen it happen so many times. For other teams, it doesn't happen. Maybe it's just because Citi Field, again, built on a cursed ancient burial ground, so it takes a little bit time for these guys to adjust to the water, as Mike Francesa would say. Either way, my dud, after that long-winded conversation, my dud. I could put Megill in there. We talked about Megill a good amount there, but I also want to point out that Francisco Alvarez was awful in this series. He looked overmatched every single time at the plate. He was not blocking balls well either. And then, I also blame him for that Alonso throw. No, I'm joking. But this is the type of thing with him where I'm talking about where he shows it, he displays it, we know what he is capable of, and then he just disappears. And he's just not making that impact. It just, I don't like. I'm underwhelmed with. If there is something that I'm underwhelmed with these young guys, because the veterans guys, I said I was underwhelmed with this team, but with the young guys, there's nothing I'm more underwhelmed with than Francisco Alvarez's bat. I'm gonna be honest here. I like him defensively better than offensively right now. Didn't think I would have to be saying that. And because, defense can always get better. We know he can develop as a young player. But we all know the situation with the coaching behind him. We all know that we don't really agree how it's been handled. But when we're seeing uncompetitive ABs from him like that, I'm underwhelmed with that. If you want to talk about one thing I'm underwhelmed with, Alvarez is bad. I still am. Because I'm just not seeing this middle of the order catcher that I was expecting. And maybe it's just because he's young. Maybe he still has more to grow from. But like, dude, hitting tools are hitting tools. Eventually, he's going to have to adjust to it. He's had a decent amount of major league plate appearances. I don't know if it's the thumb with the grip of the bat from last year he's struggling with again. Probably is. But, I mean, we're going to have to write down, especially to know what he is. And if he is somebody who gets affected by these injuries with his hitting, as the hitting prospect that he was, then maybe the hype just wasn't, it was premature. And he's the number one prospect in baseball. And Frank, I know that you're a big Francisco Alvarez guy, but it's just, it's been underwhelming from him. I really am, I'm surprised as to what we're seeing, especially what he's capable of, because he's shown it before. He has shown it in spurts before.
I'm not surprised because this is what the hitting coach told him to do. I mean, he's doing exactly what he's been told. The batting average is up. He's
Yeah.
going to opposite field more, and they're saying in batting practice the guy is purposely shooting the right field. So he's doing
Yeah.
what the coach told him to, and it's like, again, I don't get it. Like you say, he was number one prospect in baseball, and it was because of his bat. But then you're like, totally change your approach, change your stance, change your swing, and then let's see what happens. Like
And we'll get
you.
into the problem in that eventually. Like we've said, that conversation's coming. That conversation is coming, and he is one of the factors in that of what they did with Francisco Alvarez. But again, some of these at bats in this series completely overmatched.
Yeah, no,
Completely
he just
overmatched.
looks like he doesn't know. Like his swing just looks terrible now. Like he
He's
has
caught
this.
he's
Like
caught guessing a
yeah,
lot.
this new stance, this new everything. It's just, and he's probably guessing because he's used to one thing and now they told him to do something else. I don't even know what's going on, but more and more he's just looking like a catcher, just a
Yeah.
catcher. Like he is a catcher.
We're not
He's
reaching
not playing
Tomas
like a
Nido
catcher.
territory.
No, but he looks like
But
a catcher, not the guy we hope for. He's just
yeah.
like that's his position.
Yeah.
And
And it's kind of a
he's
shame.
better
It really
defensively,
is.
but it really stinks because we
Because
know what he's
usually you
capable
push
of.
all your chips in on a middle of the order type of catcher. I mean, we know how the impact of Salvador Perez. We know the impact to him. We saw it in the World Series all those years ago.
Hmm.
He's one of the few. I mean, how many catchers? How many catchers have like 50 home run seasons? He's like the most in a single season by a catcher.
For
Home
Salvi,
runs. Yeah.
probably. I mean, well, he did a
Yeah.
lot of DH too, but yeah, that's
Well, he
very
is a
rare.
DH.
Well,
He's
he's a
built like a
DH now, but
DH.
even when he did hit that many, he was DHing a lot of times. But
Yeah.
still, like this guy that was rare to see. Oh my gosh, all this power, it's not there anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
he's still strong, probably, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I'm just not seeing a maximization of it. And that's what really, really sucks because usually good coaching plays to the strengths of the players and helps them with the weaknesses, not the other way around of trying to just change them completely. And it seems like Alvarez is one of the main victims with that. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, well, like when you just totally. The thing is, too, though, is that like if a player is a certain kind of player that maybe he doesn't agree with Chavez's philosophy, that doesn't mean that you turn them into what Chavez wants. Like you have to turn them into what's best for them because
Yeah.
Chavez does not know everything.
Well, he's kind of a genius, to be honest, if you ask me. Um, but either way, let's get into this series in Boston, which is about to start actually in about a half hour. So we'll try to get into as much as we can, and then we will head out of here. But in Fenway Park, the Mets will be visiting and continuing the AL East after being in the Bronx for 3 days. Tonight, we've got Kodai Senga on the mound, looking to continue his early NL Cy Young bid, and he will face right-hander Hunter Dobbins, with the first pitch being at 6:45 tonight, which is in about like 40 minutes, and that will be on SNY. Game 2 will go to Clay Holmes. He's hoping to bounce back from an unfortunate start against Pittsburgh. He'll be facing and lined up to face, it's actually not completely official, but he's lined up to face former Dodger Walker Buehler. First pitch will be at 6:45 Eastern
No, they
time
said
on
that's
SNY.
official. They're expecting Bueller to be
That's
activated for
okay.
Tuesday.
So that's official. Okay. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
he's
expecting.
active.
That's the expectation.
Okay.
He should be
All
activated for
right.
this game.
Anyways, game 3 will go to Tyler Megill as he aims to break the doldrums of the month of May, as we just talked about earlier. And the Red Sox will start Garrett Crochet, one of the most explosive arms in all of baseball, one of the young and upcoming arms who finally got out of the doldrums of Chicago where they just waste away talent, got his big extension, and he seems to be on a pace to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, and it has been so far this year. So definitely a tough matchup for this team. And first pitch, likewise, again, for the third straight time in this series, will be at 6:45 Eastern time on SNY. So this Red Sox team is kind of in the middle of the pack in win-loss record, since win-loss record is the only thing that matters. But Obviously, they're 2 games under 500. We know that they have talent on this team. We know they have hitters that can do a lot of damage to you. I'm not really sure what has been going on with them this year because I haven't really been paying attention. But I do know about the whole situation with Rafael Devers, of course, with him not wanting to DH first base. We talked a little bit about that, of the possibility of him being traded. We know that Alex Bregman, who the Mets were attached to in the offseason, is doing well at Fenway Park. What a shock. And then, of course, we know, what is it? Trevor Story's back, right? He's healthy
I mean, kind
somehow. Yeah.
Kind of. He
He's
struck
healthy.
out 58 times.
Sick. Pretty much being Trevor Story. Okay.
Yeah.
We know that they have a top-heavy lineup. We know that they do. I've talked about liking the Red Sox rotation and thinking it had upside even before they brought in Crochet. Hunter Dobbins is one of those pieces. But either way, some things that you're looking at for this series, hopefully they play a little bit better because, again, this is a team that you could beat. You could beat them. You could sweep them. You're good enough to do it. So
Yeah.
what do you think here going into Boston?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like you said, they're 2 games under 500, yet still second in their division. So we'll talk about records and mattering and stuff like that. But to your point, very top heavy. I mean, Bregman's having a tremendous season. Devers, they had the whole drama. They moved him to DH, and he's doing really, really well there. He had a few big home runs against the Braves, so that was good to see. They moved Jaron Duran from center field to left field. Wilyer Braves off to a great start. But then after that, like we said, Trevor Story really struggling, not getting much offense in center field. But the other big storyline for the Red Sox has been first base. Tristan Casas was not been what they hoped this season, and they've been trying a bunch of different guys at
Did
first
he get hurt?
base. He did get hurt, but even when he was on the field, banged 182, 580 OPS, like he was brutal. So they're trying like Toro at first. They're thinking of maybe moving Christian Campbell to first. So like they're still trying to figure out what's going on there. And that's why they asked Devers to play first. He's like, nah, I'm a third baseman. So they're like, fine, you're going to DH. So they're still trying to figure out what's going on there. Just really top heavy in that offense. The rest of these guys have been struggling. And you know what? That Megill versus Crochet matchup, oh boy. Like that is that's a scary one, so to speak. Crochet has been amazing this season, which I knew he would because he's really good. And I wish the Mets trade for him, but they don't have the prospects that the Red Sox do. So that's the situation that they're in. But we'll see what happens because it's the Mets. So whatever you expect, the opposite could happen. And they beat Crochet last year because he was a White Sox, not a Red Sox. So it's going to be interesting. But from the Mets aspect, I talked about the frustrations of not being able to take advantage of the short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium from the left-handed hitters. So now for this series, you have the Green Monster on left field. Can we see the right-handed hitters maybe do something with that? Can we see Vientos have some big hits? Alonso get back to going what he's supposed to be capable of. When you face Crochet, the left-hander, you're going to have Lindor batting right-handed. Alvarez, he doesn't pull anymore, so he's not even going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, now you want your right-handed bats to maybe step up a little bit here, having Fenway Park's interesting dimensions. So that's what I would like to see, but they didn't do it against the Yankees, so hopefully they do against Boston, but you just never know with this team.
Yeah. I'd like to see them build on some of those situations. I'm looking at the Red Sox bullpen. Aroldis Chapman, it's like a who's who here of who's who have peaked. Liam Hendricks is in that bullpen. Justin Slayton, who was a Met for a few seconds in the Rule 5 draft, who they traded for Ryan Ammons, who's a left-handed pitcher, left-handed prospect. I know that Slayton has showcased some stuff, but I know he's struggled recently. Our old pal Justin Wilson, how the hell is he still alive? I'm not even going to lie. Like, I'm pretty sure he's had like 3 Tommy John surgeries since he's been with the Mets. I think he came back while he was warming up in the bullpen, and then he got hurt coming back from Tommy John surgery before he came back in. I know that they have a lot of injuries with the pitching. Walker Buehler is just coming off of injury. Cutter Crawford, they're out of Richard Fitz, Tanner Houck. Patrick Sandoval. They have what's his name? That other lefty with Tommy John surgery. Again, this is a top-heavy lineup that they're going to have to get through, of course. But as for the key for them winning here is the offense has got to wake up. They have to. Will it happen? Who the hell knows at this point? And to be honest, I shouldn't have to ask that question. Really shouldn't. But again, Duran, Devers, and Bregman. That's the key. That's what you got to get to.
And
even though
Abreu.
I've seen the Mets, and Abreu. Even though I've seen the Mets more struggle against the bottom part of orders.
Yeah, don't walk the bottom half.
Yeah.
That's a major key.
Don't do that.
Not walk
That'd
the
be
bottom
sick.
half of the order because they do that way too much. Way too much.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But you have Kodai Senga on the mound. Hopefully he could set the tone for this series. And maybe the Mets will hit for him. That would be sick. That would be awesome to see. But I don't even know what to expect at this point. Like we have said, this is what the offense has been giving to you. It's just been premium, constant, pulling teeth type of process with this team, which we know is better than that. And they can be better than that. And for some reason, it just has not been on display yet throughout 50 games. So again, this is an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue if it is not solved or if it's not cleaned up, and it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Like we saw earlier with the runners in scoring position, percentages down from March to April. They got to be better at this, or we are going to start having some really uncomfortable conversations about this offense, about the coaching staff. We're gonna have to break this down even more than we already have. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to worry about a more than $1 billion lineup underperforming like this and putting up 2 to 3 runs, or having 2 games where the offense just doesn't show up. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about fun stuff. Even though everyone accuses me of being a Debbie Downer all the time, I want to talk about what's good about this team. We want to talk about what's good about this team. This was more of a negative lineup today in our show, talking about the runners in scoring position, a loss in the Bronx, Megill struggling. We want to talk about fun things. We do. We really do. Maybe hard to believe because we're very negative people. But that's how it is. Got to tell the truth here. Again, we're not going to tell you what you want to hear. Either way, Frank, if you got any closing message for this situation here, they got to be better.
No, for
be
sure.
Better.
And a perfect example is Walker Buehler, because they faced him with the Dodgers in the playoffs last year twice, and they had runners on against Buehler, and then were chasing and not having good approach with men on base, and they bailed him out. So we'll see any similarities this time facing Walker Buehler. I mean, maybe, but then again, you're not going to be facing him on the Dodgers anymore, so it wouldn't matter as much. But still, I mean, like those are some things that we saw last year that you definitely have seen again this season. But as far as like positive things, I mean, on May 19th in 2006, that was when David Wright walked off against Mariano Rivera. So that was the time the Mets did beat the Yankees. So at least we'll always have that to remember.
Yeah. And it'll never happen again, because again, this is our extremist thing. The season's done. That's what we're saying here. But again, the lesson learned today for anybody who's watching, I know it's going to continue to be, well, you're being negative. I don't know what to tell you. Go fuck yourself. But sorry, but context matters. Context matters. It does. Got to look under the hood. You have to. Because if you don't, it's going to spread to the outside. Somebody said in the chat earlier, the cream rises to the top. It's true. It is true. It may be a cliche saying to say, but it is true at the end of the day. When you look at it, there you go. Either way, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future in our live chat, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to know when we go live after every single series of regular season games. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which mainly feature Frank's post-game reactions after every single regular season game. Follow us all individually, including our third Mike, Andrew, who is not here. And of course, finally, as we move on into Fenway, hoping for greener futures, greener pastures. I don't even know what the hell I'm saying at this point. I'm so tired. Either way, play better. That would be nice. Play a lot better. All right. We did the whole underwhelming thing with the Yankees. Let's do an overwhelming thing in Boston. And then we have something fun to talk about. Either way, let's go Mets. We'll send you out to Fenway, which is in about, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And we will see you guys next time.